We'll go ahead and get started so that we are keeping good time. I need to call this meeting. Well, actually, let's take a roll, please, Kate.
Morning, everybody. Okay,
Morning.
for the meeting of the Board of Trustees, March 25th, I'm calling the roll. Todd Hobler. If you may be muted. Is Todd here?
He's definitely here.
Yeah, he's
Maybe he stepped away for a second.
Yeah, it looks
Okay.
good. We'll come back to Todd. Lynn Lenahan,
present.
Kate Masiello here, Carrie Phillips. Carrie? Jeff Stone,
Here.
Susan Swartz,
Here.
Annie Wilson,
Here.
and Travis Poling is excused as he's taking an exam. We'll come back and I don't see Todd though.
You see, it's an empty office.
I see that. That doesn't mean he's here.
Right, that's true. That's true.
So we do have a quorum of 6, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you. So at this time, we will, there's Todd right there.
Todd, we're calling the roll. Can you give us a here?
I went to get a glass of water and I got into a conversation.
All good.
See, you get a promotion, you get all sorts of latitude all of a sudden.
That doesn't happen when you work at home. There's nobody to talk to.
Right.
Okay, so we are going to, I need to make a motion to go into executive order to discuss personnel matters.
I'll make a second the motion to go into executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
All right, we'll be in touch, Bill.
I need a motion to come out of executive session. We made a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
And so we are now in the standard meeting for the Board of Trustees. Kate Masiello, please, if you will, for the record, indicate our statement.
In executive session, the board took action with respect to the terms and issues surrounding the employment of an individual.
Thank you very much. Okay, so just as a little housekeeping, if everyone can just please mute your phones. Welcome here. Our President Reuter, he does have to leave, so, but we'll be back to attend another call. However, before he leaves, I would like to have a brief moment of silence. The college has experienced several losses over the last week. And so our hearts and prayers are going out to the families, the colleagues, the students of those individuals. The other moment of silence is for the reason of this moment of silence is for those who have lost their lives this week and around the country, and the tragedies that have happened amongst our fellow community, our fellow citizens. So with that being said, please take a moment. Thank you. Len, I want to give you the floor.
Yeah, just to point out, Maureen Doyle's father was amongst those who passed on this week, and we mourn, all of those that have. Just want to mention that Maureen's father was Mike Fitzpatrick, who was a legislator for 25 years. And aside from being a legislator, he was also a union official with the Iron Workers. And he was a strong supporter of the building of the city campus, or the renovations of the city campus. He was a real fighter for working people, and just a terrific guy, but a real supporter of this college. And so I just wanted to add that to the record, that we're losing a good friend of the community and of the college today, and we mourn with Maureen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. My heart, my prayers, my love and light goes out to everyone. Okay. So the next order of business, we have a presentation from Drescher and Malecki. Are they on the call? There you go.
Yes,
okay.
I'll do a brief intro, Madam Chair.
Okay.
The college undergoes an annual external audit. The firm that is engaged is firm you mentioned, Drescher and Malecki. The information that is presented today is in draft form, as our audit is also then reviewed by the county because our audited financial statements are then incorporated in the county's annual audit. As just similarly, the foundation and auxiliary service corporation audits are incorporated in the college's audit. So it all like rolls into the next event. But I'm going to turn the meeting over to Carl Widmer, who is a partner with Drescher and Malecki. And for full disclosure, Carl grew up down the street from me in East Aurora, and I used to kick his rear end in basketball in my driveway all the time. He may not admit to it, but let the record state I used to beat him.
Record state. I guess thanks for the introduction there, Bill. I will not admit that, especially on record, but that was a long time ago. We'll have to meet up again sometime soon on the court. Everybody, thank you for having us today. Again, we're the group from Drescher and Malecki. I thought it made sense to have, a powerful group join me for today's presentation. So along with myself, I have Matt Montalvo over here. He was the engagement partner on the past couple of years of the college's audit, and this year served as a resource partner. And also have this year's engagement senior manager, Charles Trottier, here today, just to make sure I don't miss anything, or if you guys have any questions that they might be better suited to answer, that they're here. So we prepared a presentation similar to the past years. We've had feedback that it was, helpful and a good one to walk through the audit process. Is everybody getting that shared up on their screen?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So this will just serve as a nice walkthrough. I believe drafts were provided either earlier this week or late last week. So today we want to walk through. First, we'll just do an overview of the entire audit process, really. Some of the key communications that we want to get through to this group. Also go over some of the audit deliverables, what you can expect at the end of the audit. Then we'll get into some of the financial highlights, a macro perspective. It would be difficult to page through a 60 or 80-page financial statement document all at once, but we pull out some key trends and data points that we'll walk through, and then just wrap up with overall audit observations. So to get into it, our responsibility, why we're hired, is to come in and provide our opinion on the college's financial statements. So we do like to differentiate that the package that you have in draft form, those financial statements are the property of the college. Management's responsible for their accuracy and putting them together. We come in and plan and perform an audit so that we can get reasonable assurance and enable us to give an opinion on those financial statements. Users of your financial statements, students, grantors, banks, whoever it may be, looking at those financials, they want that external verification or look at the financial statements. And that's our role, and how we fulfill that role for you is by giving our opinion ultimately. We are in a position to issue what's called an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion. That's what you should strive for. So as it stands, if everything moves forward, you'll be receiving a clean opinion. A couple other items are significant policies and estimates as they relate to the financials. If there are any big changes, we want to communicate it to this group. It's really in the interest of transparency to keep everybody clued in to what's happening behind the scenes as it relates to the finances and keeping the books. In policies, no big changes. Estimates, it is worth a brief introduction to some of the estimates that are included in the financial statements, just because of the impact they have. There are two large liabilities, and they've been communicated each year, but I'll mention them again, is your OPEB, other post-employment benefits liability, and the net pension liability. That's essentially your actuarial liability for your participation in the state retirement system. The college is required to record those on their financial statements and report them. So those are big dollar amounts. OPEB this year was $190 million of a liability, and your net pension liability totaled just about $28 million. So what's important to note about those is they aren't here and now commitments that you're going to have to liquidate using resources on hand. They are actuary-derived liabilities that are estimates of a total be-all, end-all liability into the future. One other estimate that we want to communicate today is related to the student accounts receivable. There is about $16 million of receivables for student tuition on the books. And the college reports an allowance, which represents, it acts as a contra asset and says, we may not collect X percent of what's out there in receivables. That estimate, each year, management reevaluates that calculation and the level that it's at, just based on the best information available. So this year, considering what you endured with COVID, that estimate, the allowance, it increased just about $4 million up from just in $8 million to a little over $12 million. So a $4 million, and that was a negative impact on the financial statements. Essentially, the college had another year of valuable data available and updated the estimate to reflect that. Independence, probably the most important aspect of your external auditors is that we are in an unbiased position to serve as your external auditors. Myself, everyone here at the firm, we can confirm that we're independent from the college. Other matters, a little bit of a peculiar year as it goes for performing an audit. We did it primarily remote. So at this time, I really want to pay some compliments to the group that was most involved with us. Arda was a huge, consistent point of contact for us. Worked a lot, from home, different hours to help us out. So we really appreciate her availability. And then Bill also was involved, and of course, all the supporting staff. Products of the audit, our financial statements, of course. Included in the financial statements is a compliance audit over federal awards that the college receives. This year, that single audit included 2 programs, the Student Financial Aid Cluster, which we end up testing each year, but also this year was the CARES Act funding, which was about $7 million, and that was subject to certain compliance requirements. We went through the process and performed that testing, and there were no reportable findings. So important to know that. You'll also be receiving a management letter, auditor communications letter, and we do also provide some assistance in filing those federal compliance audits to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. So through that, are there any questions on the audit process before we get into the financial highlights? All right. So first up, here we have a 5-year trend of your revenues and transfers in versus expenses. And if you're following along on the financials, page 17 and 18 will support these amounts. But what we're looking at here is your red are your total expenses, your blue are your revenues. And as you can see, the trend is that revenues have declined steadily over the last 5 years. Expenses they do fluctuate. 2018 had some big spending on the ERP, big project. But most recently in 2020, expenses went up $5 million compared to last year, and revenues decreased just about $5 million from last year. So a compounding negative effect on net position. When you consider your total expenses and take away your revenues, total net position or your equity position in the financial statements decreased $21.5 million. That compares to $11.3 million last year. You do see a dotted line in the middle there. What we like to do, I had mentioned those 2 big liabilities, OPEB and net pension liability earlier. The effects of those, since they're non-cash items, we try to remove them and present a line that will more closely reflect the budgeted items at the college. That's what that dotted gray line represents. So even removing those items, you saw a slight increase in expenses. This next slide, we'll present some of the key contributors to the decrease in revenues. Again, page 17 is going to have this information in the financials. But in operating and non-operating revenues, you have items that really hinge on student enrollment. Of course, your tuition and fees. That's the first operating revenue decrease there of over $8 million. That went from 36 down to $28 million. And also the college is receiving federal and state assistance as it relates to enrollment activities. So those also decreased. You see those decreases in the non-operating section here. One upside on the revenues for the year was, as I mentioned, that CARES Act funding. That was made available to the college during the fiscal year, and they did take advantage of it and were able to claim just about $7 million. So federal grants for the year increased compared to last year. On the expenses side, again, you're going to see some increases that's going to support the total $5 million increase. Salaries, those went up. People were getting paid more and were able to continue working during that fiscal year. Employee benefits went up, tied to those long-term liabilities, OPEB and net pension. And scholarship expenses also increased. In a year where it'd be interesting to spend more on scholarships, it was actually because the majority of these expenses were eligible for reimbursement under that CARES Act federal grant. So these expenses were offset with increased federal revenue. And then I wanted to include the last item is supplies, services in general. This area decreased, and I think it's important to note that because this area is a little bit easier to control under management. So in those areas that were doable to try to cut, you did well and decreased those by 1.8 million. Aside from net position and revenues and expenses, a large focus area for the college is the cash on hand. If you're looking at this graph, it's the total cash on hand at the end of the fiscal year. And as you can see, after the first 3 years of 16, 17, 18, where cash was maintained $38, $39 million, over the last 2 years, that's decreased now to just over $19 million. That's about half the cash position that you were 2 years ago at August 31st, 2018. There are definitely several factors that contribute to the decrease. Not as many students this year paid in advance for tuition, so you didn't have as much cash on hand. Collections were difficult, and of course, just the overall effect of declining enrollment is going to generate less cash. But for each of the last 2 years, the decrease in cash has been 8 million from 18-19 to over 11.5 million in the most recent year. This slide here is going to take a look at what the college uses as a measurement tool and calling it your fund balance. So the college actually instituted a fund balance policy that's been communicated at our presentation, and I'm sure Bill has presented on it previously. It takes the total net position deficit, which if you look at the top row on this graph, the unrestricted net position per financials, that big negative number, 216 million this year. That's what's included in the financial statements that we audit. As the college likes to look at it in a fund balance capacity, we included this slide to sort of facilitate that reconciliation to get to ultimately a fund balance, which is the more liquid or more available net assets on hand. So when you remove the effects of GASB 75 and 68, those represent OPEB and net pension liability, you arrive at this year's number of $6.4 million of unrestricted fund balance. Now, as it relates to the college's fund balance policy, that dictates that about 2 months of your annual operating expenses should be maintained as a minimum level for this unrestricted fund balance. Last year was the first year that we formally communicated the college not reaching that minimum. So in 2019, that $15 million number there, that represented 13.6%, when that minimum level per the policy is 16.7%. So as you look at 2020, you can see the decrease in the dollar amount that factors into a 5% compared to 13.6% last year measurement when you're looking to the fund balance policy. So it will be an item that's again communicated formally in our management letter. You may have seen it in the draft. So this is an area that it's a big focus area because it's a measurement number used by outside entities as well as college management. And our management letter likes to focus on, potentially what are the replenishment plans looking forward and how can we improve that number. I'm going to stop sharing just since we got to the observations. Let's see here. So overall, there are the significant concerns that were there last year, unfortunately, with the declining enrollment and the impact of COVID only made that more difficult. Unfortunately, salaries and benefits, those costs are still on the rise. And there's also the factor of collections on those student receivables. You know, that drew a little bit of extra attention this year as an area to maybe improve and recapture some of that cash where those levels have declined.
Yeah, and I think when you look at, you know, where the management letter, the kind of the key comment there, and looking at the declining operations, we focused, you know, the recommendation last year on financial planning, and that's going to be even more emphasized as, you know, short-term planning and looking at opportunities out there. The American Rescue Plan that was just recently enacted, there is an opportunity out there for, you know, significant funding for the college in the coming months. So that's going to be added to the management letter, you know, really to be a focus area where the college can maybe, you know, consider designating an individual or a third party to administer those, so they're maximizing that, you know, that reimbursement or that allocation, because that is an area of opportunity over the next couple months to get some cash in the door, and kind of stabilize the operations while you're looking, you know, more from a 3 to 5 year budget perspective, but that would help to stabilize in the short term.
Thanks, Matt. And just wrapping up the initial comment in the management letter, we sort of walk through and capture the trends, the fund balance levels falling below policy minimums, the cash levels also declining. And what's important to note about fund balance and cash is that those are critical elements of some calculations of a composite score that the education department uses to sort of grade or evaluate the college's financial responsibility. So a composite score is something that's come into the college. I think last year was about a 1.4. And once you drop below a score of 1.0, we understand that you get a designation that would maybe bring about more monitoring from an outside entity. So those areas of fund balance, the unrestricted fund balance, and cash on hand is very important to have a recovery plan. And as Matt mentioned, looking forward, it seems that the American Rescue Plan and the higher education aid that's going to be offered to the college, that seems like a great immediate opportunity to work towards stepping up all of those elements. Overall, I mean, it was, despite financial challenges on the college's side and the records themselves, working with the college, it went really well this year. I was pretty satisfied to see how well both our staff and the college's staff was able to accommodate, being flexible, and everything it took to get through the audit process this year. But we're in a good position. We'll be just seeking final approval from management group, and also, as Bill mentioned, do pass it on to the county, just as a, you know, to afford them the opportunity to review those financials as well. But after that, we'll be in a position to issue. So long-winded, still trying to keep it short, but if anybody had any questions, we are available at this time. Any questions?
Are there any questions from the trustees? I think in our committee of the whole, we and other conversations, we discussed this this audit. We are grateful for you every year for coming and doing a fantastic job with our audit. And I think I would just say what's apparent and should be for everyone is that we are in not the best of times, but hopeful for, you know, our future, hopeful for some relief coming from the federal state aid, and potentially even, federal aid and also state aid. So if there's no other question, Bill, you're back. Do you want to add anything else?
I greatly apologize. So I'm not sure what was covered. I would say that this report has really highlighted some serious fiscal issues that are existing at the college. If we did not have the one-time revenues that were recognized as part of the audit, I think $4.6 million was recognized, we would have actually ended our year 8/31/20 with a fund balance of $1.8 million. We have mismanaged this institution fiscally, and we need to make sure that going forward we're a fiscally sound institution. I am concerned that when Middle States comes to the college at the end of September, that this certainly can be an issue for them to comment and have some concerns. Denise, again, I missed much of it, but you were mentioning one-time revenues. We have the potential for a lot of one-time revenues coming to this institution, and we need to be good fiscal stewards and not misspend the resources coming to the college.
Thank you.
This is Jeff Stone. I just wanted to point out and remind everyone in the group that what we're talking about here is a report on our fiscal year ended August 31st, 2020. So even though we're sitting here at the end of March, we're actually looking at a snapshot of a period of time that was quite a while ago, and we all know about events since then. So just make sure you don't interpret this as being a snapshot about the college today. This is a historical snapshot, and we have to take into account too the events that have occurred since September 1st.
Thank you, Trustee Stone. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone, Drescher and Malecki, from Drescher and Malecki, for your report and for coming here today. So.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Right.
Okay, thank you. So for the next item on the agenda is the Committee of the Whole. There are 4 items that came out of that to be voted upon for the consent agenda. And so at this time, I would like to make would somebody like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
I'll second.
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Second by Kate. And were there any opposed? Thank you. So we have 9 items for board information. Board letter 2020 conclusion, internal control letter 2020, from the foundation audit 2020 financial statement of activity, supplier report February 21, facilities rental and waivers February 2021, budget to actual financial dashboard LMHF financials ECC, human resource transaction report. Are there any further questions regarding these 9 items? Okay, great. Trustee Stone did mention this last month, and I think that was a great idea. It will seem that we're running through, for our viewers, our first-time viewers, that we're speeding through the agenda, but we've participated in the Committee of the Whole 2 weeks ago where we went through these items in much detail. So the next are the Board of Trustees items received outside of the Committee of the Whole, and these are for board approval. 1 is in motion, the executive summary, and 2 is, I hope I'm pronouncing it, DACAN, HVAC executive summary, and President Reuter, if you can just go briefly what those 2 are.
Certainly. The first item in motion, it's a marketing workflow. The college issued an RFP We had a committee that reviewed the responses to the RFP, and we are recommending the lowest responsive bidder to that RFP in motion. The county attorney has already reviewed the contract, so it is pending the board's approval. And then Dakin HVAC, there's work that's done at City Campus. We've had an annual contract that we bid out. We have found a co-op agreement that we can piggyback on. It would be a 5-year agreement. It would provide us a guarantee of a 10% discount on parts and equipment. For the labor component, a follow Fair Labor Standards Act, but we will also solicit other quotes. We are not bound to use their labor, but it's a win-win. Again, it's a 5-year contract that we can piggyback on, and it's subject to county attorney approval.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve items 1 and 2?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Items are approved by the Board of Trustees. For board information, we have the 2021-22 New York State Executive Budget versus One House proposal initial summary. And we also have the interim president report of the February 25th meeting. Are there any questions from the trustees?
Madam Chair, if I could maybe just offer a very brief overview of the One House bills. There are some salient points that I want to just bring your attention to. So as you know, the governor releases the state budget normally in January, and then we have 2 houses of legislature, the Senate and the Assembly. And traditionally in the month of March, they release their One House versions. Early in March, there are table targets provided. And the Senate and Assembly version is vastly different than the proposal by the governor. For ECC, and I suspect many of the community colleges in the state of New York, the Assembly version is much more favorable to us. The Assembly version provides for a 100% floor for community colleges based upon 2021 executive recommended. So for us, the range from the Senate version, my initial calculation is $29.6 million in state aid. For the Assembly version, it drops down about $1.5 million under the Senate version of $28.2 million. And then the governor's budget version is at $25.9 million. So a vast swing in the three. The Senate version has a 98% floor or $250 increase in FTE aid. So we would certainly benefit by the Assembly version. So if you know any Assembly members, that's the one we would love to get. The other couple items in there of note is you'll hear a lot about TAP cap. TAP cap is presently tuition up to $5,165 can be covered by TAP. This is a very, very big subject for the 4-year schools, university centers, and only a very limited handful of community colleges, because most community colleges are under that TAP cap. I think this actually hurts us in enrollment, because if a student has an opportunity to go to a 4-year school versus a community college, knowing that their TAP may be fully covered by the state of New York, it may drive that decision. But it also does provide a very large appropriation of limited state dollars. It's estimated that this by itself will be about a $21 million price tag in the state higher education budget. The proposals increase the TAP cap from $5,165 to $6,165. So that is significant. The other couple of quick items in here, 2 different versions. The governor had released a budget that provided that we could charge differential tuitions for certificate programs. meaning a lower tuition than what we currently charge. We can't differentiate between a nursing program versus a CNC program. The language in the governor's bill did provide that differential tuition. Assembly version said no, Senate version said yes. So I'm not sure how that will be resolved. And the other item I want to make mention, two other items. Both the Senate and the Assembly rejected the governor's proposal that would allow Suny to approve changes in curriculum. Right now, it has to go through SED, creates a bottleneck oftentimes and extends the time for approvals. And both the Senate and Assembly voted against that and did not include it in their bills. And there's also a bill that was included by the Senate and Assembly talking about a state early retirement incentive. And again, there's a lot of details still to be figured out if that is sustained, but that is part of the Senate and Assembly version as well. That's a very brief update with the state budget as we stand right now. I suspect that we will hear more. Came out last night about some marijuana legislation that there's some agreement. So I suspect that agreements will start to occur as far as all the bills that are being discussed as we speak.
Thank you, President Ruder, for that update. Are there any questions? Comments? Okay.
And
So if I
could,
oh,
I'm sorry, if I could,
no.
I don't know if Jeff gave his monthly update on CRISA and the CARES and the American Rescue Plan. I would just say, as far as the college, federal guidelines just came out earlier this week, and they are certainly more flexible than we originally thought. We still need some State Department of Budget guidance before we can actually go expending and utilizing those funds. But part of the expansion from the federal government was we can now go back to March to apply these funds towards, and they have expanded the definition of lost revenues, which is huge for us. I'm certainly trying to lobby for lost revenue to also include the increase in uncollectible accounts. That amount this year alone, the period ended August 31st, was over $4 million. So we are certainly very pleased to see a shift in what the federal government is starting to say as far as eligibility. And I will certainly keep this board informed as we get additional guidance, but it's a very favorable shift by the federal government.
So at what point, sorry.
Oh, Bill, I did not give a report, but I did at the committee of the whole, and many of us were on that call. And we're all paying attention to that. Everyone on the call is watching what's happening in Washington. So we won't go over it in great detail here, but we are waiting for guidance. I think we all have to recognize that the funds that will be coming to us, while welcome, have to repair a lot of damage to our fiscal position that has occurred in the last 1, 2, 3 years, even before the pandemic. So we heard the auditor's report about the state of our essentially our savings account or our reserve fund. And, you know, without that recurring revenue, we're running about $1 million or 1.4 in the savings account on an $85 million budget. It's very dangerous. We can't be in that position. So what's happening is this federal money is designed to come to us to make us somewhat more whole for the damage we've already sustained. It's not as if we're getting a huge windfall that we can operate with going forward. So we all have to keep some perspective on the federal.
Jeff, you probably, yep, you cut out, Jeff, on us.
Money while being.
Toward that point, I just, you know, whatever guidance we can give as this money comes in to ensure that we build up that cash reserve.
You can hear me, Bill.
I'm sorry, Kate, go ahead.
I'm just saying that these one-shot revenues that come in need to be directed to our fund balance and our reserves. It's not a time to be thinking about spending a lot of money. It's about repositioning ourselves to be more whole. So just as opportunities come up, I think management needs to recognize that the board is very committed to this policy that we set long ago about keeping at least 2 months worth of reserves in the fund balance, and that should be our first priority, to my mind.
You have my pledge, Trustee Masiello. I will make sure we put as much as we can possibly away as within staying with the guidelines provided to us.
Bill, could you talk, if you can hear me, could you talk a little about
Yes,
the
I can hear
viewable
you.
accreditation thing?
Sure. I actually, you're now into my president's report, but I will shift. I got a call from Jay
Well,
Topaz.
Bill,
Oh,
can I just interrupt? Can we hold that thought, Jeff, if that's okay, just to have the his report comprehensive, but just stuck in there? Is that okay? Yeah, I think I saw a thumbs up from Jeff. All right. So with that being said, are we okay with moving with receiving and filing the 2 items for board information? Okay. So next we have policy and governance. Chair Masiello for board approval.
Thank you. We have 3 policies for the board's approval. The first is a micro-credentials policy, and if this looks familiar to you, it should, because we approved a very similar policy in January. What this does is add the addition of number 9 to on page 87 of your packet, to the requirements for micro-credentials and competency badges, which requires now a minimum grade of C- or all courses taken for a micro-credential with a GPA of 2.0 for the program, unless a higher minimum grade is specified by the department. I would encourage any trustees who have questions about this addition to direct them to Doug Scheit.
Any other questions or comments?
I mean, our goal is to make sure that people are, that's what I'm looking for. Meeting the minimums and have a mastery of the subject. So that's why we're requiring a minimum grade for this micro-credential.
No?
So if there are no questions, want to take these all as each individuals votes.
Sure.
So I'll move the passage of the micro-credential policy as
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Can someone move the preferred name policy?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Perfect. I'd like to motion to move the student transfer credit policy.
So moved.
Seconded by Carrie. Okay, I saw you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The board has approved the policy and governance items 1 through 3. For board information, oh, I'm sorry, Kate.
Nope, that's it.
Okay. We just have the minutes of the policy and governance committee, January 13th, 2021. So as for my report, I just want to say that 2 things, actually. Congratulations to SGA for putting on a fantastic event that I was so honored to participate on, celebrating Women's History Month and Women in Leadership. We had a guest of honor, Kathy Hochul, who did a phenomenal keynote, as well as a production from the Kana Irish classical dancing group. A lot of times I'm invited to things and I can't stay the whole time, but that was something that I was very happy to be able to stay and participate. And thank you so much for putting that on. And also thanks for the audio visual team who were able to project that out, the dancing and the auditorium. Was that Bob? You did
That was Bob, the man, the legend.
that was actually really good. I was like, oh, this is very professional, top-notch footage here. So thank you very, very, very much for that. I also got an email because I'm just going to promote it, even though I was not asked to do so. That our North Campus baking and pastry art students are doing a Statler Sweets final week Easter bake sale. So if you are able to visit North Campus to pick up some Easter treats, please do so. The last thing, I have been in several meetings with President Reuter and other constituents of the college or what have you, and just keeping updated with what's going on within the school. We have a lot of great things going on in spite of our financial challenges, our enrollment challenges, and I am truly excited to see what comes out of all of this dust storm, and I think the days will be bright ahead. As far as the presidential search, item B, we met again on last week to discuss just other procedures to go forward. We do have some applicants currently that are being reviewed by the search committee. We are on target for our next meeting date, which will be in April, which is also the application closing date. We have, excuse me, I keep saying but I'm just trying to think. We have a few meetings coming up where the search committee will be meeting in person to deliberate over the applications. And you will also all be getting an update via email, and it will be on our website soon regarding our progress. Are there any questions or concerns about the search? Perfect. Travis is not with us today. He is in an exam. So we will not have the student trustee report, but want to wish him a lot of luck. We also have great news that Travis will be joining us next year as our student trustee, and so we're excited to have him again. He has done a fantastic job. Also look for Travis as a feature in the student orientation that will be debuting for fall 2021. For our College Senate report, Colleen.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's good to see everybody. And now that we have all these sunny days and green grass and some robins are out in the air, it's reminding that there's only 5 weeks of the semester left, and it's coming on us quickly. And I'm just so excited that our students are adapting well to the new remote settings. And even though it's been difficult for them that we didn't have the February break or the April break, I know some instructors are giving extended deadlines and things like that so that students can have some time with family and friends over the next couple of weeks as we begin Passover and Easter and all the different spring holidays coming up. But Senate met in March. We're going to be meeting April 9th, I believe. And we have been working very hard to push some of our academic committees out of the GAP structure and under the College Senate. So we've been working with our CWCC, which is College-Wide Curriculum Committee, and our General Education Committee to do that work. And it'll change the reporting structure to come up through the Senate, which is how they are already being already operating, so that it'll just be more official for the body as we move forward. We are also looking at starfish and looking to start a task force to examine starfish and its effectiveness and how it helps our students moving forward, and to see how it can to double and make sure that some of its functioning isn't also being duplicated in other areas of the college, so that we can make sure that we have a more efficient early alert system to assist our students and to help them get any assistance they need or connected with their advisor or counselors, et cetera, to help them out. And then we are going to be moving through our election cycle soon, and it's been, you know, really great conversations and things like that through various groups to get some of these initiatives moving forward, to make sure that all faculty, counselors, librarians, academics, staffing have been participating. So it's been very exciting. I'm really looking forward to the April meeting. And that's it.
Thank you, Caroline.
You're welcome.
I am excited to see my tulips come up too.
Mine are about 2 inches high, and they're like right outside that window right there. I'm really excited about it.
Yes, I love it. Thank you again. Next we have the bargaining units report. I believe we have Andy on the call.
Yes, Denise, hi.
Hi.
And sorry about getting on earlier. I was on 2 calls at the same time, so I didn't realize that I was on your call. So I actually didn't hear anything if anybody is concerned.
Andy.
So
No worries. Thank you.
So I was on a NICEP call as well, which I'm still on. So I'm trying to do 2 things at once. So I do apologize for that. I just wanted to also reiterate that we're all happy that the spring's here, and this COVID situation looks like it's starting to, come to an end, hopefully, and we can get back to normal at some point. My members are excited about that. Also, I wanted to thank the college for setting up vaccines for college employees, even though some people did already are in the process of getting their vaccines. But I think it's extremely important that everybody gets their vaccine. So I just wanted to thank the college for setting that up over at the KeyBank Center for our members and all the college community. The other thing that I wanted to just mention, President Reuter and others spoke about the One House bills that came out. And the Faculty Federation has been meeting with members of the Assembly and Senate, as well as through the New York State United Teachers, advocating for the floor and other funding sources. So we're looking forward to making sure that these things happen so that we can get back to some semblance of normalcy. And as I've said before, enrollment cures all our problems. So thank you. That's all I really have for today.
Thank you so much, Andy. Enrollment cures all of our problems. I need a t-shirt with that. Okay, thank you so much. So now we'll have the report of the president.
Madam Chair, before I get into my report, I do want to piggyback on 2 comments. One, Colleen made, which really resonated yesterday with me. I do a bi-weekly pause where we broadcast live to just updates. We talked a lot about the spring semester winding down, and students need additional support to get them through. And we talked about fall and summer, but student on the chat mentioned that he wishes, or she wishes, I'm not sure, male or female, but the comment was that they wish we had built in a mental health day into the calendar. And I apologize. That should have been something we should have considered. It's a long semester. I explained to that student and to the audience that our lack of breaks was a directive by Suny. We couldn't have spring break. We couldn't have the midwinter break. So we should have, if this ever happens again, for the next leadership to really consider building in some sort of mental health day. So it's great to hear Colleen say that faculty are cognizant of the struggles of our students and are giving extended deadlines for completing work. So thanks, Colleen. That's great to hear. And to Andy's point about the college and offering vaccines to its employees, it was not the college, it was the county executive reaching out to me late Tuesday and offering that any college employee that had a college ID would be eligible to receive the vaccine. And we sent that communication out to all staff yesterday. So thanks, Andy, for giving us the accolades, but it was really the county executive that drove that, and we're just facilitating it. So thank you. I'll shift quick to enrollment. Bob, can you bring up the spring numbers, please? And I'll try to go quickly, and please ask questions if you may have them. The spring numbers are slightly better than what we've been reflecting for the last couple time periods. We're actually we're a little better, about 2% better than where we were. We're down almost 19% on FT and 17% on headcount. Again, all trends, all divisions, all locations, we're down. We are seeing, which is really, really encouraging, a trend where our first-time students, brand new to the college, first-time full-time, is increased. So we're up from 600 last year to 645 this year, which is a very positive trend. But we have a lot of work to do. I do want to mention some of the activities that are going on, led by Phil Struble from Enrollment Management, but it's really been a team effort of a lot of people. We are running, last semester we piloted the rescue courses, and that was a faculty initiative. And through the faculty's, again, urging, encouragement, we are offering additional rescue courses. So we did a late start, last 7.5 weeks of the semester, and we actually had 80 students enroll in those rescue courses, 94 actual head counts, and it generated 9.5 FTs. And this is important because it's helping students maintain their full-time status versus part-time, maintaining their financial aid, and keeping them engaged at the college and giving them their opportunity to complete coursework that maybe they were failing at. So thank you, faculty. Thank you, staff. We are going to build on that program and offer many more opportunities starting in the fall. And this will be a recurring product for us as we move forward. Other items, as far as what we're doing, we continue to work on a transfer agreement with Buffalo State College. And that transfer agreement is sort of twofold. Those students that are not, can't get into Buff State for whatever reason, academic challenges, if they are a county resident, we are working on an agreement where they will be referred to the college, ECC, and if they complete a certain amount of coursework, they can transfer to Buffalo State without any loss of coursework. And then we're also working on a program with Buffalo State to address their stop-outs. Quite often, students leave the college and are sort of lost in that higher education abyss, and we're trying to help them track and reach out and bring them and continue their education so then they can go back to Buffalo State. We are certainly launching a very concentrated effort with Buffalo Public Schools, our biggest feeder. Phil Struble has created a task force that's meeting every other week. Dave Uzinski, a faculty member, was brought on board as part of that task force. And he's been very involved in advanced studies in the math area. And we're trying to broaden advanced studies to many more facets with Buffalo Public Schools. Something that sort of has been changing recently. When we have advanced studies for Suny, it's considered concurrent enrollment. And the guidelines from Suny, we always talk about 1/3 tuition for advanced studies. Well, the guidance from Suny is that if a student is on free or reduced lunch program and/or if a district is on free or reduced lunch program, we do not need to charge that 1/3 tuition, which opens up unlimited opportunities for us to get into Buffalo Public Schools and offer advanced studies. So that's something we are working very hard on. And again, it's the staff and it's the faculty that are involved. Similarly, with Buffalo Public Schools, Associate Vice President Sagai opened up recently meetings with the CET, Career and Technical Training Department of Buffalo Public Schools, and we had a robust meeting on how we can expand opportunities in CET market with Buffalo Public Schools. And similarly, she orchestrated a meeting with BOCES 1, CET Department 2 to look at opportunities with the component school districts in BOCES 1. Summer session starts May 24th, goes to July 1st. That's our summer session 1. And then the summer session 2 starts July 6th and goes to August 12th. We, with the faculty's assistance, crafted a message that we put out, and all faculty are posting it on their Blackboard accounts. We are hosting a virtual open house on April 24th. Fall registration actually opens on this Monday. So we're getting that messaging out to students to enroll, get going, and we will be using Workday for the very first time for our enrollment functions, advisement, the whole student experience moving forward. And then, interestingly, I think part of our challenge, we have multiple challenges with enrollment, but part of the challenge is if any of the board members read the Buffalo News on Tuesday, there was a lengthy article, front page, talking about pre-K enrollment in the Buffalo public school system. Pre-K enrollment is down 45% last year to this year, which tells me that many of our students and staff have children, and now all of a sudden they're facing a situation where their children are not going to school. They have to be the provider of the education. They don't have anybody maybe at home that can help, or they have to be at home with their young children. So I think this whole pandemic has just caused a snowball of challenges in the enrollment sphere, but it was pretty significant. I believe the article spoke to that Buffalo's percent was 3 times New York City's experience as far as the enrollment. So I'm not sure what's going on in Buffalo, but it's not a good sign. Again, it was an article in Tuesday's Buffalo newspaper. Shifting, any questions on enrollment? I'll shift right to COVID update. All right, hearing none. We continue to be #1 in the state of New York as far as community colleges dispensing the vaccine. It's the county vaccine. It's the county running the dispensing locations. South and north have been robust every day. As of this morning, we've done over 37,000 vaccines at our 2 campus locations. Statewide, the community college system's only at 161,000. So we have about 23% of the entire share of vaccines being dispensed at a community college. Our pool testing, and accolades to everybody involved, our pool testers, our COVID task force, Amy and Mark. Our positivity rate is at 0.224%. We're doing about 1,000 tests per week, about 200 per day. Their efforts have been nothing short of remarkable. The downside on pool testing, the state, as of Monday, is shifting the way the pool test will be conducted. Not a big fan, and I'm certainly not a big fan because the cost of the pool test, each one, is going from $15 per pool test up to $20 per pool test. So that's going to certainly add dollars to the cost of providing those pool testings. Continue to man checkpoints at all 3 campuses. We continue to encourage students and staff to use our Campus Clear app As of this morning, we're at 5,475 users of the Campus Clear app. We are certainly planning a mix of in-person and remote learning for the summer. We are at this point planning a full in-person return in fall. We are working with Suny, we are working with the county, and Suny is currently evaluating the new CDC guidelines going from 6 feet to 3 feet. It's being reviewed and evaluated by Suny. A lot of talk throughout the state as far as fall classes, what that will look like. Graduation has sort of started taking off. I met with our team yesterday, and my recommendation is we do not have an in-person graduation. I believe that it puts our students and staff at risk of the spread of the COVID virus. The numbers in the community, you saw, I think Depew Middle School is shutting down for 10 days. I do not want to risk the health and safety of our students and staff. The logistics of SUNY Erie trying to fit a graduation without any attendees in the Flickinger Athletic Center. We do not have the large stadiums at the four-year schools. I know there will be some pushback, but I rest assured my first priority is the health and safety of our students and staff. So you're going to hear some complaints, and I think I have the full support of the COVID task force and all members that this is the right decision moving forward. As far as the other items on enrollment, I provided the board the information on high school graduates. I had sent an email. That full report is found on page 99 of your board package, and I've also provided the 5-year FTE update for SUNY Community Colleges on page 163 of your board package. You will note that our 5-year enrollment is down 29.9%, statewide average 26.4%. So this is something that has been happening for several years and certainly has been exacerbated by the pandemic. Just a very few brief updates on some other items. Some have been mentioned. The chairwoman and I have done some taping for new student orientation with Paula. Thank you, Paula. I mentioned Wednesday pause. The chair mentioned her participation in the meeting with Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul. She was remiss in mentioning that she did the opening remarks, and SUNY trustee Eunice Lewin sort of gave the overview of the background of Kathy Hochul, and it was a great connection between ECC, SUNY, and Lieutenant Governor. And Kathy Hochul is a huge fan of SUNY Erie, and it was good to hear her. Next Wednesday, the chairwoman, hopefully she has it on her calendar, she will be introducing Legislative Chair April Baskin as part of our Women's History Month. And I look forward to hearing and seeing what the chair of the legislature shares with the college and the members that are attending that meeting. Colleen mentioned College Senate. I participated in the College Senate meeting. I also participated in the chair retreat, and most of them are updates: presidential search, enrollment, plans for the fall, plans for graduation, and everyone's very interested in what we're doing. Chef Mark Wright, who's recently retired, has been nominated by his peers to be president of the American Culinary Federation, which is a huge honor. It's a national organization. The election is in May. And speaking of retirees, I actually had the great opportunity to meet with Mary Beth Orange. I'm not sure, some board members that were here when Mary Beth was a faculty member, and Michael Delaney, who recently retired. We are moving forward with a retirees association of everybody, not just faculty, not just administrators. This will be a retirees association for all college retirees, getting them back into the ECC family, having the opportunity to have give back, get involved, whether it's tutoring, whether it's pool testing. Michael Delaney is one of our pool testers, for instance. Instead of using existing staff, why not use the individuals that are vested in ECC as a retiree to give back, talking about volunteering at events, talking about volunteering at the golf tournament. So it's a wonderful thing that they're stepping forward and taking some responsibility and ownership. I will be sending out a communication in the near future, and sending a certificate of appreciation to each and every retiree, and that should be going out in the near future. Last week, Friday, unbeknownst to me, I was invited to a presentation of the Architectural Design 2 presentation of beautifying South Campus, doing an outdoor learning. It's a project for our program at South Campus, the architectural program. I actually walked over there to Building 2 at South Campus, but no one was there, and I didn't look at my invitation close enough. It was virtual, so I was able to attend that virtual, and I've asked the faculty member that ran it, maybe the shift for next year could be a project involving beautification of North Campus. We have sent out the student satisfaction survey. Fabio informed me as of this morning, we have 211 responses, 193 are complete responses. There's still 10 days to go, so that will close on April 4th. Just a reminder that April is our 75th year anniversary, and I know Paula is working hard at that, putting together some events around that and some information. And then we launched the new website. We're still trying to add some value to it, so it's a work in progress. Next board meeting, we are having our joint meeting with the Ecc Foundation. So I will reach out to Mark Gollan, the president of the foundation board, to make sure we're on the same page with him. As far as county updates, I mentioned the county executive and reaching out and offering vaccines. You have no idea what that means to people. Gail Frazier drove to Syracuse last week to get a vaccine. To allow our students, our staff to just walk over to the Key Center or drive to the Key Center is huge. So I appreciate the county executive. I have my monthly meeting with him tomorrow afternoon, and I'll certainly express my deepest thanks for the board, the college community, and myself on that. Part of my conversation with him tomorrow will be on capital projects. I received a notification we have to submit a project request to the county by mid-April, so I will get his sort of feel on dollar amount and types of projects that the county may entertain. I attended 2 weeks ago the county legislature community enrichment committee to talk about the team dynamic contract, which was approved by the board in February for a new help desk. And then I left this morning, the economic development legislative committee. We have a project at North Campus for ADA improvements and electrical improvements. It's over a $4 million project. The award of 4 main contractors, and that was passed unanimously. This is important because New York State Education Department back in 2017 came on campus and cited ECC for significant deficiencies in the ADA area at all 3 campuses. City campus is in progress. North Campus is in progress. Anything we can do internally with the action by the legislature at committee today will allow us to complete all those items. We have until 2023 to complete. The challenges of ADA for buildings that were built in 1960 are significant and costly. So this is over a $4 million project. I've had many meetings with the state. I have my Western New York Regional Presidents meeting every 2 weeks. They are a great sounding board. We share a lot of information. We talk a lot about athletics, for instance, what everyone's doing. And speaking of athletics, I've been remiss. I jumped right over athletics, and I'm trying to think where my notes are. Oh, so athletics. We volleyball actually clinched our first Region 3 championship since 1982, and we'll be competing in Scranton for the East District Championship April 2nd. Our men's bowling has won 2 in-house in-season tournaments, and both teams are going to be competing in Region 3 championships this Sunday. Swimming and diving is hosting the Region 3 championship on April 10th and 11th. Baseball started last week. Soccer started practicing. First game is set for April 2nd, and women's softball is practicing, and their first game is scheduled for April 5th. A couple other updates. I'm skipping around a little. I apologize. I'm trying not to belabor. Jeff, you asked about Dewville earlier. I was notified by Jay Tokaz of the Buffalo News that State Ed did in fact grant the master plan amendment to offer associate degrees over certainly our objections, Niagara County Community College's objections, and Trocaire College. The article tried to sort of downplay the impact of students, saying that it's only 20 students. We certainly, I thought, pleaded a positive case. I think the outcome was known before the hearing even took place. I was very disappointed, obviously, in the outcome and the process, but we will have to deal with that decision and make the best of it. And again, you know, it's disappointing. I have attended a couple Amherst Chamber of Commerce meetings, and I've been added to the Diversity and Inclusion Council. We had our first meeting this past week. It's chaired by Annika Samuels, and she is the Director of Inclusion and Diversity at National Fuel, and it was a great meeting. Couple quick academic updates. Doug informs me that the first draft, I printed out, I haven't read it yet, of the Middle States report was sent out college-wide. And again, the Middle States team is scheduled to be not on campus, virtual, September 27th. New York State State Ed has approved 3 items: our revision to Police Science Basic Certificate, Construction Management Technology Certificate, and our Cannabis Science track in biotechnology, which I guess is pretty timely considering that it looks like we are going to have marijuana legislation approved as part of the state budget. And then lastly, the Career Services is hosting a career expo, and they'll be showcasing 5 Western New York employers looking to hire our grads, and details on the registration process will be forthcoming. I'll include my entire report as part of the April board information. With that, I tried to go quickly. Any questions that I may respond to, or any additional information on anything I may mention? And I'm not sure, Trustee Stone, if I addressed what you were going to ask about Dewville.
Yes, you did. Thank you, Bill. And I'm glad you mentioned athletics, because as you were speaking, I was gearing up to ask about that. I hope I can be heard. I've had some internet issues. But what I'm thinking about is that the Board of Trustees is a little bit removed from the whole situation involving athletics at the college right now. The last time that we really focused on that was unfortunately in June, when we had the sad task of canceling the fall sports due to COVID, subject to maybe a few of them being able to happen that were less contact. But since then, about exactly what sports have happened, what are happening, where exactly did football fall when it got deferred, and I just feel like we're a little too distant.
Jeff, your phone is going in and out again. So we're here, you're just cut out. And everyone, while Jeff is trying to get his audio together, my office is having a fire drill right now. So I guess I'm going to leave. I'll try to connect via my phone. But Jeff, your audio is gone. So Kate, you're up next. I'm going to ask you, Kate, to finish off the meeting for us.
Okay, well,
okay, maybe Jeff can come back on, but let me go before security. They'll fine us if we stay in.
well, I don't believe we had any old business. Anybody feel differently? Any new business? Jeff, are you back up and running?
No, if you can hear me, I just want to get a better grip on the athletic situation at our next meeting from an appropriate representative.
Certainly, Jeff. I will have our athletic director attend the meeting and go through the updates.
In addition, I would ask at the next board meeting, we get a report on the full cost of Workday. So I know that the budget items we had approved in the past included subscriptions and consulting fees, but they lacked the staff that was hired to implement this program. And I think in order to really understand its true cost, it would be helpful to us to, if you all could provide us with that information, which could teach us the lesson of what are the questions we need to ask for about what's missing when we get proposals.
Kate, I took a picture of your chat request, so I will certainly work on it. I will caution you, I have tried to get that Workday non-subscription information, and I've hit a lot of challenges. I don't know how accurate it is. The problem is we hired a lot of staff, and we also moved a lot of staff, and we backfilled those positions. To get a true accurate number, it's going to be a challenge. I will certainly try, but I do want to caution you. I have tried in the past, and I will work with Scott Irmer to see if we can get something a little more accurate. We added a lot of positions at the college over the course of the last few years in connection with Workday, as well as backfilling positions that were shifted. I know several positions at a payroll and grants that became 100% Workday related employees, and then we just backfilled those positions. So I'll do my best.
Thank you. We have already met in executive session, so there will not be a request to meet again in executive session. So do I have a motion? Well, I'll just say that the next meeting of the Suny Area Board of Trustees is scheduled for April 29th at 9 a.m. Virtually. And we hope you all can join us. And can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Thank you, Todd. Second? I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, everybody have a great
everyone.
day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.